Good evening, everybody. It's around 7 o'clock Central on a Wednesday, and that means it's time for the Hang Up. I'm Matt Dillahunty. You're watching The Line, and what's my hang up this week? Well, trans rights issues, actually. We're in the middle of a winter storm here in Austin, not like the one from 2 years ago where I was basically frozen and locked in place for a couple of weeks with a puppy that was brand new who drove me absolutely insane. We are in a very small, tiny 3-day frozen mild heck rather than the hell that we went through a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, Aron and I were out the other night. We saw a transformer blow, and a lot of people have been without power. I'm seeing reports of more and more power problems and people out of power. For those who were concerned, I have not lost power yet. I'm on the same grid as the airport, so I will be one of the last ones to lose power. But Jimmy has, and Jimmy might lose power. So if we lose power during the show, apologies. We'll try and pick up and fix things. But I have a broken willow tree out in the backyard that I'm going to have to cut down as soon as it warms up. There's a bunch of issues related to elections. I've got all kinds of awesome stuff going on with snake business and everything else. And I have a guest tonight who all of you are familiar with, Heathen Queen. And normally I try to tailor my hang up to the guest or tailor the guest to what my hang up is whenever I can. Unfortunately, that's not the case, because today, former President Donald Trump released this statement.
Being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination.
So I'm sure someone will go through that video at some point on YouTube, if they haven't already, with a step-by-step response to the problems with what former President Trump just said. But this is just another in an increasing trend of gender-critical folks trying to put an end to everything trans. He spoke about chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. This propaganda of attempting to think about the kids, think about the kids, think about the kids is common. Unfortunately, it's rooted in both ignorance and lies. And one of the things that is at issue is puberty itself, which impacts someone's body permanently. He's going to, there were people who portrayed it as if he's going to ban transition at any age. That's not exactly what he said. But he is going to ban all government programs that discuss gender transition at any age. So there will be no government programs for children or adults or anybody else that deals with or promotes the concept of sex or gender transition. He's going to eliminate tax dollars that would promote or pay for any such procedures, which I guess doesn't matter as long as you've already eliminated the government programs. I guess you don't have to eliminate the tax dollars for them. He's going to pass a law, which he says will pass very quickly, but he's a liar and an idiot, to prohibit child sexual mutilation, which isn't what's actually happening. He's threatening hospitals that participate in what he wants to label and others want to label as chemical physical mutilation. This is healthcare we're talking about here. He wants to investigate Big Pharma to see if they've covered up horrific long-term side effects. So for a group of people for which we have not enough studies done, he wants to suggest that apropos of nothing, with no probable cause at all, just, hey, let's go see if maybe people are lying about this transition stuff, and then they'll have to face consequences. There's absolutely no probable cause for this at all, and they represent such a tiny portion of the population that people aren't getting rich off this. They're getting richer off Viagra. They're getting richer off the fact that my insulin prices have gone through the roof. They're getting richer off the fact that the new drugs that are potentially helping many, many more people than trans folks, just diabetics alone with Mounjaro and stuff like that, would cost me $1,500 a month with a coupon and insurance. So I just don't take that drug. But I'm not dying because of an absence of that drug. And while my life isn't as great as it can be, unless I'm on the best medication, it's not as miserable as it can be either. I think he can absolutely submit executive orders and end those government programs. I'm not sure if there's anything that he said that would be remotely beyond his authority as president. One of the problems here is that people are like, he's not going to get elected. Well, okay, that's what I said in 2016. And right now, there are people who want him to run just because maybe if he runs as a third party, he might split the Republican Party. It might be the end of the Republican Party. I get that. I think those things may be correct. To me, it doesn't matter whether or not he wins because these are the talking points of his base. This is an increasing mantra where trans folks are increasingly under attack every single day. Would the courts strike down any of the bans they did? I'm not sure that they could, even if we hadn't already lost the Supreme Court for a generation, but it doesn't really matter. Even if they do strike it down, that time period between when he enacts these executive orders and when they get struck down is a period of chaos and harm that we don't need, that will result in harm and will result in death. When you have secularists siding with religious folk, and they're both lying and misrepresenting trans rights and trans rights issues. I saw the other day, this isn't specifically about trans rights issues, but Gad Saad has been on an anti-trans kick lately. And if you want to know what his audience is like, he put up a poll. His audience voted, I saw it at 5,000 votes, 90% to 10%. At 43,964 votes is the final result. Who is more corrupt? 88% Joe Biden, 12% Trump. That doesn't tell you what the demographic of the United States thinks. That doesn't tell you anything at all about trans issues. What it does tell you is of the people who see Gad Saad's posts, who are his fan base, who have been attacking me nonstop, as Gad Saad did the other day, retweeted one of my things and said, this guy used to point out the irrationality of religion, and now he thinks men have periods. Men do have periods. Trans men can have periods. Trans men often have a uterus and they can have periods. The whole thing was Gad went off on this thing. There was a picture of a bunch of trans men and it just said, people have periods. And merely saying people have periods, which is absolutely true, undeniably true, that people have periods. Otherwise, you're saying that those individuals with uteruses that have periods, they're not people. That's what Gad Saad and the others are claiming. What they're really hurt about, what they're really upset about, is that what they see are a picture of a bunch of trans men and they want to say those aren't men. Fine. We can have that discussion, but it's still true that people have periods. But merely acknowledging that truth was enough to get, I pointed it out to him that he was wrong. And then he comes after me. This guy used to point out the irrationality of religion. Yes, I do. And I will continue to point out your irrationality, your inability to think clearly, and your dishonesty on these subjects, because trans men aren't claiming to be cis men. Trans women aren't claiming to be cis women. And yet, if you look at the responses from everybody over there who wants to equate sex and gender and talk about these things in terms of sex equals gender, in terms of gametes equals gender, in terms of chromosomes equals gender, every single one of them is ignoring the fact that trans is an adjective for the noun, and trans women aren't claiming to be cis women. Trans men aren't claiming to be cis men. But all of the responses from these people, every single one of them, tries to just deny that there's any cis or trans, and there's just men and women, and it just fits in this category. It is the most antiquated, prescriptivist nonsense you could hope for, that denies the fundamental reality of how we use language, of how we identify gender, and of all of the information that we have learned about this. They want to label us as anti-science while we're actually following the science, and they are making flawed scientific claims that conflate sex and gender. We know that supporting transition is the best course of action for trans folks, no matter what. Doesn't matter whether you think it's a mental illness or whether it is a mental illness. None of that shit matters. The best treatment for trans people is to be supported in transition. Now, that could change in the future. We could learn something new, but right now, that's what we know. We also know that puberty blockers are essential and reversible when properly administered. We also know that the regret rate for transition is less than it is for knee surgery. We also know that medical decisions should be between doctors and patients and not government officials, and certainly not the Orange King idiot of government officials. We know that medical ethicists are already dealing with these concerns, and yet it's, what about women's sports? We already know that sports organizations are dealing with these things and trying to come up with the best solutions for all of this. But think about the children. We are thinking about the children. We're thinking about the countless children who are dealing with issues, who may be suicidal, who may be struggling, who may have no support network at all, and treating them with dignity and respect and encouraging. They prop up this straw man that makes it seem like a 5-year-old says, "Mommy, I want to be a girl. I'm trapped in the wrong body," and we immediately perform surgery on them. This does not happen. This isn't even in the realm of close to. Do you know how difficult it is to, first of all, find a psychologist that will go through all of the process and steps to help someone reach a point where they can then say, yes, your child is trans, but the best thing we can do to start with is to have them live life as their gender and see what happens. We don't start with puberty blockers. We don't start with surgeries. All of these things. There is a course of treatment that is governed by experts and medical ethicists, and it's constantly being tuned. The government has no place in that. And the average Twitter idiot who's getting their information from GadSat or whoever definitely has no place in that. Now, tonight wasn't supposed to be about trans rights. We have a whole other show devoted to that. It'll be on Saturday this week instead of tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's going to be a special 3-year anniversary of the line stuff. But we have, and I'll get to all those announcements later. For anybody who's wanting to call in to specifically discuss trans issues, like in a broader sense, I would recommend that you still call the Transatlantic Call-In Show so that you can speak to actual trans people. And when someone like Ben is on, you'll be able to speak to a doctor, student doctor, but doctor. There are lots of good pieces of information that I am not at all conversant with. If you want to call in to argue about pronouns or talk about how I'm wrong, you can do that. Tonight wasn't supposed to be about that. And I will still be taking calls and encouraging and hopefully taking calls about religion, about politics, about any of those things, and which is why I brought Heathen Queen in to help me. But as allies, and I don't get to decide whether or not I am. I'm trying to be. Allies to the trans community, we have to recognize that they're constantly under attack. When I post about trans rights issues on Twitter or wherever else, I am attacked immediately and fairly regularly and constantly with name calling, homophobic, transphobic crap. The trans folks are under attack from bigoted, homophobic, transphobic people who have fallen for propaganda, lies, and hate. There are some, I don't want to do this, good people on both sides. There are good people who've been fallen prey to misinformation, which is one of the reasons why the Transatlantic Call-In Show exists, so that some of that can hopefully be corrected. Please, if you share nothing else, don't ever share my show again. Share the Transatlantic Call-In Show, because it's almost criminal that there aren't more people actively watching and calling and participating in that, given how much significance there is on this issue. When I post about these issues, I'm under attack, and it usually lasts a few days. And they say just all kinds of ridiculous things, and then there's a bunch of name calling, and it's all kind of and they'll attack Arden and misgender her and all this other stuff. I'm lucky because I'm not trans. I can stop dealing with this whenever I want. I don't have to talk about it on this show. I don't have to talk about it on Twitter. I don't have to do any of it. And I could go about living my daily life, and I'm not under attack because I don't fall into that category. But my trans friends can't do that. It's their day-to-day existence. Now, I've got someone calling in who has already retracted a claim that I left and ruined the atheist experience because I was pouting over pronouns. That had nothing to do with why I was leaving. But they still want to call in to talk about pronouns, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But we have this situation where people who don't know what they're talking about are painting a picture for other people who don't know what they're talking about, and it spirals from there. Trans folks are under attack. It's disgusting, it's dehumanizing, and it's deadly. At its core, much of it is homophobia, just respun. I'm sure there'll be calls on this tonight, but I doubt it'll occupy the whole show. I'm glad that Heathen Queen is here to take any and all calls. So if you want to prove your God, please call in, do so, bring your A game. If you're calling in to be transphobic, at least bring something other than simple name calling. And if you're calling to tell me I'm wrong, please bring your A game. Don't accuse me of a fallacy if you can't prove it and identify it. Don't pretend that your paraphrasing of what my position is what my position is. And don't pretend that you know my mind or motivations better than I do. But if you can actually make an argument supported by evidence, pick up the phone and call in, and join me in welcoming Heathen Queen.
Hi. Thanks for having
How you
me.
doing?
I second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, everything that you just said. Thank you for saying it.
Yeah.
And I am,
Thanks. It's, I'm just, it's constant and it's frustrating, and I genuinely, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I don't either, unfortunately. And all I can keep doing is just using the privilege that I have to keep saying, like, this is fucked and we have to do better. But I think one thing I have done, and obviously I'm sure, obviously because you're with Arden, reach out to your trans friends. See what you can do to support them.
I do that every morning.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying, not you. But generally speaking, like, reach out, be loud, and take some of the heat for them. I mean, I know just like I am a cisgender woman, and the amount of just absolute garbage misogyny that I get every single day online, when a man steps in between me and that misogyny, it is a relief. And that is, I can only imagine, magnified 100-fold by people who are far more oppressed and marginalized than I am. So
it's a difficult thing. I mean, and by the way, I know what you just said. One of the things that a lot of guys who would step in on things, they don't want to be They might be woke enough that they don't want to be accused of white knighting. Like, she don't need me to fight her battles for her. But what people don't realize is that it's not about you fighting battles for someone. It's about you fighting battles with someone.
With someone. Yep. And the thing is white knighting was created by people that wanted to discredit men that were being allies, or like people that were being allies. So when people say like, oh, you're just white knighting, I'm like, cool. So I guess, sorry, I'm going to try and keep myself together. Go suck the fart out of Andrew Tate's ass and leave the rest of us alone. Like, which was nicer than what I was going to say. Yeah.
So because I haven't even looked at the calls fully yet. I know there's going to be calls on this. I don't want to. Oh wow, that was the best. Like, there's a magic trick taking place on my show, and I didn't know it. Basically, I wanted to find out what was going on with you before we get bogged down in all the calls and everything else. Have you got things that you need to tell people about? Because you haven't been on in a couple months.
I know. God, what do I need to tell people about? I'm not sure. I finished speaking at DCon a couple weeks ago, which was really fun. I have a few interviews coming up, which should be interesting. I will be talking with Andrew McHenry, Religion for Breakfast, tomorrow. So those of you that know his stuff might be interested in that. Otherwise, I'm waiting to hear back from grad school, and I have a new Twitter. My old Twitter got suspended. So for folks that were like, we miss you on Twitter, I have a new Twitter. It's So Help Me Jessica, much like So Help Me God, but with Jessica, Jessecca. I'm back. I don't know. Maybe that's it. I'm not sure. I think that's about it.
Holy crap. I'm glad you mentioned that you got a new Twitter, because I saw your stuff. I saw you tagging the show and everything, and I just assumed it was yours, and I was already following, and I just went and looked, and I wasn't following. So yeah, Heathen Queens live at So Help Me Jessica. So yeah, go give her a follow.
Yeah, I'm being equally as terrible to bigots as I was before, just under a slightly new handle.
All right. So in that case, we're going to jump into calls.
Let's do it.
Because there's callers about a whole bunch of stuff. And there's one I want to get out of the way first, because I called him out on Twitter and he was happy to actually call in. And now, liquid steak pronouns him. It says here, you got into a fight with Matt online and now knows Matt was right. So are we like in agreement now?
Yes, we are. Look, I know that I said a bunch of stupid things online. But in all honesty, that was my recollection, that you had quit the show over pronouns. So in preparation to talk with you, I went back and I watched your video, and obviously I was wrong. So I do apologize for that. But I still don't agree with some of the things that happened in the show, especially like I would want you to explain to me why it should be protocol to ask everyone for their preferred pronouns. And my reasoning for that is, if most of the population, let's say over 90% of the population, does not use alternative pronouns, why should we put that burden on everyone else? Why can't they call? And if they have preferred pronouns that they would like to use, then they would use it.
Yeah. So you're talking about why on earth would a call-in show ask someone what their pronouns were? And the answer is very simple. Because we want to be able to call them by their preferred pronouns. It's not about neo-pronouns or anything else. If you don't tell me what your pronouns are, how do I know whether, when I'm talking to Jess, if I should say, oh, he just told you, or she just told you, or they just told you? What is the problem with simply saying, how would you like to be addressed? And then if somebody says, I really don't care, okay, fine. What is the burden? First of all, I don't have the benefit of even seeing you right now. So we can't even use the argument that overwhelmingly, most of the time, you can look at the way someone presents and probably correctly presume what their pronouns are, or at least what their pronouns are likely to be. And you can run with that as a default, but you could be wrong. In a call-in show, I don't even have that advantage. I have to presume that it's, I don't know, does your voice sound like a man? Does it sound, should I be like, oh, should I assume race or ethnicity as well. I don't understand what the objection is to saying, hey, we're getting ready to speak to you in a public forum. Do you have preferred pronouns? Why is that a problem?
Because how far is that going to go?
Quick question. Do you, if you call in, we don't ask your pronouns, and I refer to you as she. Oh. I know, but say we don't, and I refer to you as she. Is that a problem for you?
No, like I'm not going to get offended. Like I would just say, you know what, I prefer to be called this or that, but that would be on me at that point, because my reasoning is, did you guys watch that presentation by Apple? And everyone starts by like, my pronouns are this and that, and is that going to become like the mainstream way that people articulate their thoughts now, or like they introduce themselves?
Well, why would that be a bad thing?
Because that's an extra step. It does feel like a burden.
How is it a burden on you? How is it a burden on you for somebody else to get up and say my pronouns are he, him?
No, but to have it required, what if I don't want to do that? What if the majority of people don't want to do that? So if someone
who is requiring you to do this?
Also, provide the stats for the majority of people that you're citing. They don't exist.
Right. So at this point, it's not. But what if in the future that does become like,
that's called a slippery slope. That's called a slippery slope. That's called a slippery slope fallacy. Not only do you have no reason to think that it's going to happen, but even if it did happen, what would the problem with it be? That's the question you haven't answered.
It's a lot of emotional resistance, to be honest. That's really what it is.
No, the emotional resistance is coming from you. What is the problem with saying, do you have any objection to people introducing themselves with their name?
No, and yeah, the emotional resistance is coming from me. That's what I'm saying. Like it feels like,
I appreciate that. Like I appreciate that. But if you don't have an objection,
we consider you over other people that would like their identities to be recognized. Why do we consider one word or two words from you to be the priority over these people?
What would I do if someone...
Nope, please answer the question. Why should we take what you want and apply it to everyone and say that's not a burden? Why should we prioritize what you would like over people that would like their identity validated? Why is your opinion, why is your want more valid than theirs?
Because that my opinion seems to be what the majority of people already use. So if there's going to be a change...
when slavery was a thing, when slavery existed, and that was what the majority of people used for labor, are we going to argue like, yeah, that was totally fine because that's what the majority of people use? Like, no, we learned better, we did better, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's a very good analogy.
It is.
I understand what you're trying to say, but like honestly, most people don't really talk that way. When you speak with someone, if you run into someone in a supermarket, they're not gonna say, you know, my preferred pronouns are this or that. Like that hardly ever happens.
So you're telling me that in the Jim Crow South, when people regularly referred to black folks by the N-word, regularly with no concern, no thought whatsoever, like that we should have just accepted that and kept it that way because like that's how people have been talking for all this time. So like why should we burden ourselves with changing our language so that like these people who we think are just below us are more comfortable?
No, again, that's a malicious use of like a racial slur. I mean, that's completely different. But let's say if I go to the supermarket,
no, it's not completely different. Misgendering someone is also problematic, right?
So here's the point that she was making, which you've skipped over a couple of times here, Liquid Snake. Are you gay?
No.
Okay. If somebody constantly called you gay in front of other people, told them you were gay, referred to you as gay, would that bother you?
Only if I tell them, hey, I'm not gay, so I would prefer that
you told them you're not gay, but they keep doing it. But they keep doing it. Yeah, you are. You're gay.
Right. So
would that bother you?
right at that point, yes, because
live in
at that point I've
California?
made.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
Cool. Because that's what trans people deal with every fucking day, all day. You don't give a shit about your pronouns, and you don't give a shit about whether somebody thinks you're gay or whether somebody thinks you're a woman, because you are you are carrying a mountain of cis privilege. You are carrying a mountain of straight privilege. Someone who is constantly misgendered, misidentified over and over and over, where there are now politicians attempting to legislate that they will forever be misgendered and misrepresented over and over. You have no idea what that's like. And you are unwilling, for emotional reasons, to even tolerate other people saying what their preferred pronouns are. Do you realize how absolutely selfish and dickish that is?
No, I'm not opposed to people telling me, like, my preferred pronoun is this or that. But what if it becomes a norm? Like, that's how everyone is supposed to interact with each other? No.
It should be a norm.
It should be a norm.
Yes.
That's the point.
No, today at the gym, I've known this person, my friend, for years. They have gone by she, her pronouns as long as I've known them. Today, I heard the coach referring to this person as they, them consistently. So you know what I did? I said, hey, Lana, are your pronouns they, them now? And she said, yeah, they are. They said, yeah, they are. And I was like, great. Why is that such a problem for you?
My God. I don't think that
No, why is that such a problem for you? I answer that question. Why is that a problem for you? I don't care about malicious intent. I'm asking you why someone saying these are my pronouns and why that's part of an introduction is a problem.
If they're gonna force me to at every interaction that I have, my preferred pronouns are this or that, I'm not gonna do it.
It's good.
Don't refer to you as whatever the fuck.
Don't.
Sure.
You will end. So if nobody can force you, do you think there's a person on the planet outside of being at gunpoint who can force you to tell them what your pronouns are?
No.
Then shut the fuck up.
Why do you care?
It doesn't. You are complaining about something that isn't going to impact you at all. You are terrified that the world around you is changing, and everybody else is going to start saying, "My pronouns are he, him," and then you will be the odd one out. You will be the one who's not doing it, and you know that being ostracized like that will begin to impact you, which means you should understand what it's doing to the people that you're not willing to support right now.
It's called social pressure.
I really don't see it that way, to be honest. Like,
that's
just
fine
really
that you don't see it that way. You're wrong.
Well, that's because you're wrong.
That's reality, unfortunately.
You are incapable. So it's like, imagine you lived with somebody. Like, do you control the temperature in your house?
Like through a thermostat?
Yeah.
Sure.
What if you lived with somebody?
What if you had real problems?
Who couldn't stand to live at the same temperature that you do, and you kept turning it up, saying, "I don't think it's too cold," or turning the air conditioner up, saying, "I don't think it's too cold. I don't think it's too cold. I don't think it's too cold." You have to live cooperatively with somebody. Why does your thing take priority? Why is it not a compromise to just say, "Okay, we're going to find out what someone's pronouns are, and if they don't have a preferred pronoun," I genuinely don't understand. I cannot. I have difficulty believing that there's not some other issue here, because I do not understand how people can be so upset about how other people are telling what their pronouns are, and how it's becoming normal to just say, "Here's my pronouns." What's the other issue? What's the hidden issue?
There's no hidden issue. I mean, that's honestly
there's no hidden issue.
I don't want to have.
What do you have any hobbies?
You misrepresented why I left the atheist experience, or the atheist community of Austin. Well, I didn't leave that, but they fucked up and canceled after. So you misrepresented why I left the atheist experience. You disagree about pronouns. You made such a big enough deal about it that you're willing to call into a show Have you nothing else to worry about in your life other than the world might change around you to where talking about pronouns is actually a thing?
Look, it is what it is. I made a mistake, and I did call to apologize about the other thing. But
so you don't have any
because
hobbies,
you
is
guys
what you're telling us.
Are you gonna let me speak?
No,
Maybe.
I'd like to share what I think, but I mean, if just because you guys don't agree with me and you start yelling and screaming, I mean, it's not gonna change my mind. I'm not trying to be confrontational.
Yeah, you also said that you don't mind coming on and being and looking stupid. We're saying
And
nobody can force
I
you. I'm still talking. Nobody can force you. You already acknowledged that. So that means that your objection is, I don't like the fact that other people are doing something and it's becoming normal. That is literally what you're saying.
No, I don't want to be forced to do that. I don't care if
Nobody,
other people do
it. Snake, we already agreed nobody can force you to do that. That is a non-issue. The only thing left is that you are upset that the world around you is changing and you don't want to change with it. That's it.
Right, but you understand my reasons why, right?
Not right, but no, I don't understand your reasons why. You said it was an emotional thing, which means you don't have a good reason. You don't have any evidence. You don't have any warrant for objecting. I understand that you do object to the world changing around you, but unfortunately, you're going to need to grow up because the world does change around all of us. It's frustrating. I've been on this planet for 53 years. There were lots of things, lots of changes that took place that I didn't really want to have take place, but then you have to adapt to them.
If it comes to that point, I mean, I guess I will, but at this point in time, I am not ready to accept that. And I don't have anything against trans people at all.
You do, though.
It's not that.
You do, though.
Like,
you do.
No, what do you
and
mean?
Obviously,
Okay, that's not fair. You can't accuse me of being like anti-trans people.
I'm not accusing you. You said you have nothing against trans people, and I said you do because you are against them sharing their preferred pronouns.
I'm not against them telling me what their preferred pronouns are, and
you are against it becoming normal for them to live their lives expressing this.
No, I'm against it becoming like a mandated thing that everyone has to do.
No, nobody can mandate. You are just honest as fuck, Liquid Snake. We've already agreed several times. No one can mandate you to tell your pronouns, but we can make sure that people are respected and allowed to present theirs. What is your objection to that? What is your objection to that? Good. Then we're done.
Issue with that.
Then we're done and we're in agreement. Thank you for your support.
Oh. Bye, Matt.
Goodbye.
Bye. Good Lord. Yeah. It's infuriating to me because people like him, like, get a fucking life. That's all I can really say. Like, you are out here spending your real life time and energy calling into a call-in show to, like, express outrage that you might have to add 3 seconds to an introduction in a public space. You're just telling me you never get laid? Like, that's fine. Okay. Sorry. I'm gonna reel it in. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I just get
No. You're fine. This was a guy I had on Twitter. I interrupted you probably 4 or 5 times in there because I was like, no. You made false accusations. Okay, so you apologize for this. That's cool. I got no problem with that. But for somebody like Liquid Snake, it's like, oh, I don't want this to become normal where I'm forced to do it. Well, nobody can force you to do it. And you can always, when asked what your pronouns are, say, I don't have preferred pronouns. You know,
great. Then I'll call you whatever I want.
It's like
them, she, her, they, them, whatever.
It's perhaps one of the more important questions you could ask. It may even be more important than somebody's name. For example, a lot of the people that I work with, they don't use their real name in any of this. I do. It's the one that I was born with. I started using it, whether it was smart or not. Now I'm just stuck with it. But quite honestly, most of the time, we're not referring to people by their proper name. And so pronouns are the most common thing that we're going to use. I don't need to ask you what your religion is. I don't need to ask you whether or not you're a vegan. I don't, unless I'm going to be preparing a meal. You know, if I'm going to be preparing a meal, if I say, hey, do you have any dietary restrictions? Then you could say, oh, I'm vegetarian, I'm vegan, I'm pescatarian, I'm lactose intolerant, I'm gluten allergic, whatever. That's all relevant. But it's relevant because I'm going to make a meal or take us out to dinner or whatever. But a pronoun is something that I need to know for almost any conversation where there are more than just the two of us, where I'm going to use more than just you. So if I can't use first person to second person, the second I have to go to third person, I have to know what to say. Otherwise, it's just your name, your name, your name. And maybe people who didn't grow up with Schoolhouse Rock really need to go watch that Schoolhouse Rock so they know the difficulties of talking about Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla and how much easier it is to say he bought a kangaroo that followed him home and now it is his. It's the wildest life.
I just can't imagine being like quite literally clipping my toenails causes me more of a concern than what than someone announcing their pronouns. Like, that's helpful for me, right? Like, great. Now I know how to refer to you. So to have this entire like straw man bullshit ass argument about like, well, I don't want to be mandated to do it, therefore we should not have like a general social understanding or whatever you want to call it. Like, no one is making a law that says you have to announce your pronouns. Like, it's just not happening. It's never happening. It's not going to happen. So like this idea that like someone's going to fucking hold a gun to your head and force you to announce your pronouns at like any public space is just a bigoted straw man dumbass argument because you don't like trans people. Full stop. You think something is wrong with them. You think it's not natural. You don't view them as equal. That's it. You can dress that up any way you fucking want, but that is the core of the issue. And to that I say, get fucked.
Yeah, I released a video today on how referring to Christianity as a myth is offensive, and it goes into detail about why I don't give a shit. And somebody confused, tried to say that if you're running around intentionally offending people, you're the dickhead. And what they did there was they confused I'm trying to offend you with I'm telling the truth and I don't care that you're offended. Those two things are not the same. That you got offended because the offense is taken and not given is independent from whether or not I was trying to offend you.
Right.
I can offend all kinds of people. I could say some things here that would just, I can utter the phrases that will magically terminate my career and possibly my life just out of offense. It's easy to try to offend people. The issue that
imagine just not giving a shit about other people so much.
Yeah.
That like this is the hill you die on. Sorry, I again interrupted you. It's apparently what I do.
It's good. We got calls, and we have Aiden from him in Arizona wants to talk about how Christians and atheists can have better conversations. So good. Welcome, Aiden.
Wait, Aiden.
Hello.
Is that you?
Wait.
Teenage theologian?
Yes, that is me, Jessica.
Hi. Sorry, he follows me on my social.
Hi.
We've chatted. Hi.
Oh, cool. Well,
yeah.
Hey, man.
So welcome,
Jessica.
What are your thoughts or questions?
Okay, so basically, so this is my first time on the call-in show, so if I screw up, I apologize. So basically, I was just wondering, how can Christians and atheists have better conversations? Because, like, you know, if you go on, like, on Twitter or any YouTube comment section, basically, you find a bunch of people, you know, tearing each other's heads out, yelling, and, you know, all that stuff. And I don't really like that, you know, and I thought maybe you and Jessica would have, like, some insight, because I know, like, Jessica has had, you know, Christians on her YouTube channel and done live streams with them. And I know you debated Michael Jones of Inspiring Philosophy, who I actually met in real life, a really nice man. So
yeah, we went to dinner afterwards.
Like,
although I think he doesn't like me as much anymore because he said something and I told him to go fuck himself or something on Twitter. And since then we haven't really spoken. I think he had a slightly different take on go fuck yourself than I do. But I was in the Navy for 8.5 years. There are people who are going to tell you that you called the exact wrong person to ask about how to have the better conversations. I do have thoughts, but I'm going to let you just start with your thoughts.
I mean, we're going to ask me about having better conversations. I'm quite literally known online for eviscerating bigots. That's like, for better or worse, that's my reputation. I do think, what I will say is that when people are, so here's the thing, right? Like, Aiden, you and I have interacted multiple times, and there has been no animosity. There has been no vitriol, none of that. And the reason for that is because you are actively listening, you want to learn, and you are not in the conversation to like beat me over the head with it, or to win, or to like embarrass me, or to marginalize me or other people, right? So like in those conversations, I am happy to engage in a respectful dialogue, to put it bluntly. The reason that they're... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the reason that there are so many vitriolic conversations online is that so many people, especially those that think they get their understanding from a divine being, right? So they're inherently correct, and it's because God said so. And therefore, like, their positions, which are largely hateful on many topics, are correct and nobody can argue with them. The reason those are vitriolic, to me anyway, one is that these people are infiltrating government and actually causing legitimate harm, like death, harm, all of that stuff. And oftentimes these people have lived their entire life so privileged that nobody has pushed back against what they're saying. And so, like, I actually have no delusions that I'm going to change their mind. What I want them to know is that there's a consequence for being a piece of shit.
Yikes.
And that is being humiliated. But if someone is wanting to learn and wanting to engage and wanting to actually talk, and I think you know this because we have, like, I'm 100% here for that, because that is how I found my way out of a very, very fundamentalist, high demand religion.
Okay.
I kind of want to jump in a little bit, because I've never had a conversation with Aiden, but recently I've done a lot of debates, and there are people who notice a difference in a little bit in me in a formal debate with moderator versus me on the call-in shows. And the reason for that is very simple. On the call-in shows, I'm not dealing with anybody who's supposed to be an expert at all. And I have other people on hold. And I'm the one that's sitting here steering to say, is this call going to be productive? Are we going to learn something from this call? Are we just going to sit here and repeat ourselves for the next 10 minutes? Is somebody going to get so pissed off that this just devolves into yelling and nobody looks good? Am I being disrespectful to the 4 or 5 other people who are waiting on hold? All of those are considerations on the show. In a debate with a moderator, it's you're there for the whole time. This is the person who's there as an expert. And so the only time it really gets heated in those debates is when somebody ignores what the debate's about to try to go after something else. I did a debate last week with Stuart Connectley. We've debated several times. I've debated his dad. It tends to not get heated between the two of us, despite the fact that Stuart does things that annoy the shit out of me. He spent a good chunk of that last debate saying, Matt thinks this, or Matt probably thinks this, or Matt would say this, or Matt would probably say this. I'm getting ready to release the debate review of it. I'm literally sitting right there. If I'm sitting there and my opponent tells other people what I think, what I'd say, what I would do, instead of asking me what I would think, what I would say, or what I would do, then they're trying to prop up a straw man, and they're pretending that they know me better than I know myself, or they're trying to avoid getting an answer that they don't want out of me. And that will really piss me off. And despite that, I'm generally calm when Stuart and I debate, even though he did it a million times. Well, all right, that's a slight exaggeration. He did it a lot, and it pissed me off, but I stayed calm. I think the reason is that for whatever reason, before we started debating, or as soon as we started debating, Stuart and I made some sort of personal connection where, oh, I actually like that person. I think that I care about that person. I mean, we're not friends or anything, but there are some of my debate opponents who never get even close to that sort of connection. And then there's others like Blake Junta and I did a bunch of debates and we always got along. And I think there's a personal component to it in much the same way that you watch the anti-gay Republicans who change their views on same-sex marriage and something after one of their family members comes out as gay or gets married. It took something close to them personally for them to have enough of a connection to care enough to put in the extra effort to not let it devolve into name calling and yelling. And what you see online most of the time from me and Jess and everybody else is, oh, here's some anonymous person flinging poo at me on Twitter. Why should I give a fuck to even try to keep it peaceful? And the difference that a lot of people don't see is I'm not famous. I'm not a celebrity, but I'm pretty well known and I'm a pretty high profile target within our tiny little pond. I'm a big fish in our tiny little pond. And because of that, my life is very different from most everybody else's, the people who are calling in and all that. It doesn't matter what I put up as a video. I'm under attack from vegans and transphobes immediately within the first 5 or 10 comments. I put up a video about Pascal's wager and ethical vegans come after me. I put up a video about religious offense and somebody, says something homophobic immediately. Most people don't have to deal with that. And so if it comes out on occasion where the stress gets to me or where I get to the point where it's like, I just don't care. Like with Liquid Snake, I was done with that conversation. There's nothing more to say. But despite all of that, let me say this and turn it over to Aiden. I would always like to find better ways for people to have conversations. I would like to change mine. I don't do this to earn points or to, I don't know, to, oh, look, I own Zord the Christian. Ha, ha, ha. That's too easy. I can do that. I can do that without even attempting to do that. I genuinely want people to find
make myself laugh most of the time.
Yes, there are times when I do it for laughs.
Sorry,
but what are your thoughts on how we can do better?
Are you talking to me or just?
Yeah. I want to know what you think about how we can. Because I think you and I disagree on the God thing. So I don't know whether we'll get to that conversation tonight or at any point. But if you were to pick out the best way for me and you to have a discussion about whether or not it's reasonable to believe that a God exists, what would that look like to you?
I think that would just basically just look like just kind of like what we're doing now, just basically talking about basically just talking about what we agree, what we disagree on and stuff like that. I think because what most like Christians and atheists and what everybody gets sucked into is probably tribalism, us versus them mentality. I think if we just settle basically saying look, we're both on a pursuit of truth, and we just settle the fact that we both may not be 100% certain on anything or on what views we hold to, we can have a better conversation, just try to be friendly and whatnot and stuff like that. Cause I've had honestly, at my school and my high school, I'm a vice president of a Christian club, and I've basically had more talks about religion and Christianity with non-believers rather than my fellow believers. And they've actually gone pretty deep. And so I think basically, I think what would look better is that we both share a curiosity to understand our views, our own views, and understand basically where we come from as people, you know. I think that's one of the best things too. And then also too, if any Christians are listening to this, I would say also just remember that even non-believers are made in the image of God and are worthy of all respect. So I think basically, number one, we just need to recognize that we need to respect each other as individual human beings. And number two, also show kindness and compassion towards the where we come from as people.
So I want to say two things, or three things maybe. One, Aiden is in high school, so y'all act accordingly. Two, just that's all. Two, in a perfect world where religion wasn't influencing my existence or the existence of other people, like their rights, then sure, we can behave in a way that is like, oh, you believe that? That's fine. I respect that. Just don't talk to me about it, right? But the reality that we live in right now is that Christians, especially fundamentalist evangelicals, are or have infiltrated our government, and they are imposing their minority will on everyone, and they're trying to do it even more. So the problem is that presenting this front of civility and both sides and let's all be nice to each other and sing fucking Kumbaya by the fire is that actual lives are being impacted by the hateful rhetoric that is coming out of the evangelical right. Now, I'm not saying that's you. I don't think that's you. I don't know. But this is what's playing out culturally and socially at a very high, broad level. And so pretending that, like, that's fine, these are just things we believe and we can respect each other's viewpoints is like me saying, oh, like, you want to kill me because I have purple and pink hair? Like, that's fine. Like, that's fine. We can respect each other's viewpoints, you know? Like, it's okay. It's not okay. And that's the thing. So it's like, it's not that I have Christian friends that are like progressive Christians, and we don't have to get into all of that because I know we probably all have differing opinions on that. Where I have always come down is this. Are you speaking out against religion trying to infiltrate the government? And are you supporting bigoted rhetoric that harms other people, right? You can have whatever spiritual beliefs you want. That's fine with me. It's none of my business, to be honest. I have friends that are pagan, polytheists. I have friends that are atheists, agnostics. Like, I have lots of friends. The issue for me is when you start using your religious beliefs to control and harm other people, especially through legislation. I'm not going to treat your position as just like, you know, just like I can respect it. That's fine, because it's not fine. It's you trying to control and harm a broad swath of the population. Again, I'm not saying this is you doing it, but I am saying this is why sometimes the conversations cannot just be us respecting each other's positions. Like, I'm not ever going to respect someone that's like, yeah, I just think Black people are less human. Right? Yikes. And like, exactly. But like, what I'm saying is, like, I grew up in a very fundamental sect of Christianity that has infiltrated the government. That is like, yeah, trans people, yeah, abomination, hell, not real. Don't treat them as equal human beings, right? So like, that's the thing. Like, that's sort of the difference for me. Your spiritual beliefs are your spiritual beliefs. I don't care. But I do care when those beliefs seep into law.
there's an unconscious bias. Aiden, you said something a little bit ago. You said even non-believers were made in the image of God and deserve respect. And I kind of want to point this out because that carries an implication that one would presume that we don't. My position is that, what if I said even believers are deserving of respect? It's kind of like that backhanded compliment. It's fine to say, my position is that everyone deserves respect, even if their beliefs don't, until such time as they demonstrate that they're not deserving of respect anymore. But by default, people and their rights should be respected, even if their beliefs don't. But when you say, it's the difference between saying God loves everyone and God even loves murderers. God even loves liars. God even loves pederasts, trans people, and black people. Does that not sound absolutely horrific, that we're implying that here's a collection of bad things that aren't deserving of love, and two of them are whether you're trans or black, but God loves you anyway, even though that is the type of message. I mean, and I know you didn't think about that. You didn't mean that. You weren't trying to slight anybody. But when you say even non-believers are made in the image of God and deserve respect, what if you're wrong and nobody's made in the image of God? Are we then no longer deserving of respect?
Yeah, I just like to say, I apologize if I offended you guys by saying that.
Thanks. I'm just making an academic point, kind of, and that is, if you're wrong and none of us are made in the image of God, what then would you use as a basis to declare who deserves respect?
As a metric.
That's a good question. I've really thought about that question too. Like, what if I'm wrong? What if God doesn't exist? And basically, if I just came to the fact that, Christianity isn't true, we're not made in the image of God, I guess you could say I would just use my own, moral intuition to judge of whether you're worthy of respect. That answers your question.
Yeah. And so the only reason to even mention that was the only reason I was mentioning it, was because when you say something like, even believers are made in the image of God, it kind of says, I'll respect you because God tells me I have to. Which, by the way, isn't true. There's nothing in the Bible. I've only come only to I'm promoting 2 or 3 videos here. Continue, Aiden. My problem.
Okay. So basically, I was going to say, when you said that God says I have to respect you because he tells me to, I would say that's a kind of I guess, forgive me if this is the wrong term, but that's like deontology ethics. I think that's what it's called. I go more like what Inspiring Philosophy said in his video on virtue ethics, which is basically God, tells you to respect others because it leads to a more virtuous life. And I think many other Christian philosophers say, loving God, loving your neighbor, loving your enemy is a way to achieve the highest good, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I perceive it.
Question.
Yes.
Very serious, because I don't know the answer to this. Is inspiring philosophies voting in favor of trans rights? Is he voting in favor of gay rights? Is he voting in favor of women's bodily autonomy? Because simply saying that you respect people when you do absolutely nothing to support their human rights and actually actively work against them, that's not respect. I see. That's just a facade so that people like you better. And I think this is a real question. I don't know what he's voting for, but I think that's really important to think about, that respect is not just something that you say, it's something you do.
Yeah. There's a couple of videos that I just released, and one of them actually touches on this because he, Inspiring Philosophy, tweeted, God loves all trans people. I did a whole video about that tweet. I did a whole video about the tweet. It'll be out to everybody else tomorrow or the next day. It's out to patrons now. And some of the things I mentioned to you are already there. Let me do this, because I'd love for you to call in sometime to actually defend what it is that you believe on behalf of a God to see how that conversation goes. But I can't do it tonight because we have other callers waiting, and I don't want to like overwhelm you on night one. I'm a lot to handle, and me and Jess together are a lot to handle times 10.
Yeah.
and so I would like to, in the interest of how to have better conversations, end this one on a positive note and have you call in some other time if you feel up to defending what you believe and why.
I just want to say before you go, Aiden, I think you're great. I really, really like you and enjoy you, and I think you are on a really good path. Keep questioning, keep seeking, keep asking, keep researching, and just let that information lead you where it will.
Okay. Thanks, Jess, for the kind words, and thank you too, Matt. Have a good night.
You're
Sure.
welcome.
Thanks, Aid. All right. I have other callers. Evidently, somebody in chat didn't call in. They were asking why it's okay to use they or them as a singular. And I'm like,
that's how language works.
Yeah, it was used that way for hundreds of years. And if let's say, Arden used this example the other day, if you're a school teacher and some child left their backpack and you said,
You say they left it.
They left their backpack. You don't say he or she left their backpack. And even if you did, you would have still used their. You would have said he or she left their backpack. They, them, their. It is singular. It is not just a plural. The monumental ignorance of trying to, well, I'm not going to be like Liquid Snake and just have an emotional reaction to the world changing around me. I'm going to object on some sort of academic grounds that they, them should never be used as a singular, even though it has been done before I was born.
If you want to object on an academic basis, go ahead and show me that advanced linguistics degree. You can't, because it's not real. Like, we have used they, them as singular forever. We still do. So if you want to like try and be a pseudo-intellectual, then like pull up with that degree, homie.
Yeah. The other thing is, we refer to boats as she.
Right.
Nobody ever bitched about that at all. Oh, she's a beautiful boat. Boats aren't gendered, but we do it. If you've ever not challenged somebody for referring to their boat as she's a beauty, go fuck yourself with your they, them stuff. Right. And even if you have, go fuck yourself with the they, them stuff.
Right, exactly. No lube, preferably. Sorry.
All right. I want to take this one because I think this can be handled fairly quickly. Austin, he in North Carolina, has a question, I think, for me.
Hello.
How you doing, Austin?
Pretty good. So, you guys keep on saying that you're okay with people believing whatever they want, and you don't kind of encourage them to. Huh?
No, I don't. No, when have I ever said?
But not quite.
I don't think belief is a choice.
No, it's not about. Do you want like a law passed?
Hang on. Listen, I don't think belief is a choice. So I never say believe what you want, because I don't think belief is the result of a desire. I think the belief is a result of becoming convinced. So I'm fine with the fact that people are going to have beliefs. I would prefer that everybody's beliefs be consistent with reality. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. I would like them to as well. And then the second part of this, it said, you said, why do you say believe what you want? I don't, but also don't want them to act or vote based on beliefs. I do want them to act or vote. They have no choice but to act and vote in accordance with their beliefs. So you seem to have a two-pronged challenge to positions I don't hold and couldn't hold. People are always going to act in accordance with their beliefs, and beliefs aren't the result of desire.
I understand that they're going to do what they're going to do, but in an ideal world, in your ideal world, religious people wouldn't be voting, right? If they sincerely held these untrue beliefs. Is that correct?
Oh, I would be happy if they stopped voting, but that's not my goal. My goal is to get them to change their beliefs. But I'm not encouraging anyone to not vote. As a matter of fact, I've encouraged everybody to vote. But if somebody tells me, "Oh, I'm going to vote for, the Republican ticket straight down the line. Would I prefer that they stay home and didn't vote? You bet. But that's about me desiring an outcome. That has nothing to do with belief as volition.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. All right, thanks.
I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to, the fact that we disagree on something.
Understood.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with the fact that I'm okay with the fact that people are going to disagree. That doesn't mean that I'm okay with their position.
Okay, cool.
Cool. See, I knew I could get one done easy. All right, this one's going to be difficult. We have
I'm ready.
Marlon Portum Calpi, him from the Philippines, about
Hello guys,
the existence
how are you?
of Bigfoot.
Voice.
How are you?
I'm fine. I would just like to talk about the possibility of the creature Bigfoot being real. And I want to know what your thoughts on that, guys. Because from what Bigfoot looks like from the internet,
What does
it
Bigfoot
could
look
be
like?
some kind of undiscovered
What does this have to do with
ape, you know?
anything?
So I'm wondering, if you want to talk about the possibility of Bigfoot, how do you know what Bigfoot looks like?
Well, it's a bipedal ape, possibly related to like chimpanzees or orangutans.
No. That's
or
not what I
gorillas.
asked. That's not what I
Oh,
asked.
sorry.
Okay. What facts do you have about Bigfoot that we can verify?
Well, you mean like media evidence, photos, videos,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. I'm asking you, what evidence do you have for Bigfoot? Because if all you want to do is talk about...
They have been documented on Discovery Channel, you know. And
No, they don't. They have forged footage and they have speculative views on footage that can't be verified. I'm not interested in having any discussion about Bigfoot unless you have evidence of Bigfoot. Do you have evidence that you can present that would warrant belief in Bigfoot?
Well,
No.
not really, because I'm not from the US.
Then we're done.
It's been super real, buddy.
I appreciate you calling. I appreciate the time. I have zero interest while trans people are dying and being under attack, while religious people are voting to take away individuals' rights, of having a conversation about speculative
Primates?
or cryptozoology. It's not deserving of your time or anybody else's. Nobody on the planet should be wasting time on Bigfoot. Goodbye.
Again, I
Stop
encourage
standing
you to
in
get a
traffic when
hobby
you call.
and or go to therapy, or both.
There's a lot wrong with this
Preferably.
world, and there's a
I'm
lot
so
of things
tired.
to discuss. I'll just let the call screeners know, unless somebody actually says they have evidence for some sort of cryptozoological thing, I am not interested in wasting my time, my guest's time, or the viewer's time with speculative cryptozoological crap. Tell me what you believe and why. I don't want to sit around having a conversation about, maybe it could be this. What about this? Maybe it could be that. What about this? Take that. Yeah. Somebody in chat said, call Art Bell. That's exactly what you should do. Except that I don't know if
And
Art
y'all
Bell's
are
even
right.
still alive.
I do not have a poker face. Never have, never will.
All right. We have actual theist callers, and I'm glad that we stopped talking about Bigfoot because there's a couple of them here that I'd like to have conversations with. And we'll start with Juan in Florida, pronouns are he, him, who knows that Jehovah is real. So welcome, Juan. How do you know?
Oh, good.
Hello, Heathen Queen and Matt. Hello, thank you for having me today.
Sure.
Hello.
Tell us, it says here Jehovah's real because he saved my life. briefly,
Yes,
if you
yes,
could.
Jehovah, because
Yes,
I'm sorry.
hang on. Briefly, if you could. What do you mean by Jehovah? And how do you know that this being is real? That's it. You're on.
Okay, Jehovah, the one, the God, what you will call God, he come into my life late in my life. I from street, how you say mucho, a lot of violence, and and it made me feel good. And I know he come to me at night, and he tell me that he love me, and he saved my life.
So he speaks to you. Do you hear this audibly, or is it just in your head?
Yeah, I hear him at night. I when I pray, when I pray, I hear him, and I know that he real. And you, as I say proof, and that to me is that's the proof to me.
Yeah, but I mean, do you hear it like a voice in the room, or do you hear it like a voice in your head?
Bueno, I mean, to me, I know it's in my head, pero it's a feeling that I cannot explain. And more people I know, I talk to them, they tell me I have the same. I know what you're talking about, and I say okay, and this is how I come to the conclusion.
Okay, so you feel that there's someone you know that it's in your head, then you can't prove it to anybody. Is it possible that you're wrong? That in fact your brain is making you experience this voice in order to comfort you or for some other reason?
I'm sorry. Can you? I'm sorry, but repeat the last part.
Sure. Is it possible that you're wrong and that your brain is actually making this up?
Bueno, I think I would lie to you if I told you that I am 100%, because I know that in life, I'm a bit older and I have to have how you say it, the skeptic. I know sometimes you question.
So here's the point of that question.
So much time I feel this, and
I have a question for Juan.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Here's the point of that question. If it's possible that you're mistaken, how do we tell whether or not you are mistaken? How do we know whether or not it's real? And by this I'm saying, how do you know and how can we know whether or not it's real or fake?
I think if for me, I ask a lot of people, not even in where I go in iglesia, the church that I go. I ask a lot of people, and I hear the same thing from the people when we talk about the experience, and that's why I come to that conclusion. Pero I can't say 100%. Can you say 100% que I make it go like it's not real? Can you say that 100%?
Nope.
This
Okay.
is super fun.
And then where we, what happened after this?
Hold on. So, Juan, so every night at 2:47 a.m., I hear a voice that identifies themselves as the flying spaghetti monster, and I feel it in my heart. It's a unicorn, in fact.
Pero spaghetti. I'm sorry, but
sure,
spaghetti is full. That's full.
That's true. Let's say I hear a lot. I hear a lot, 2:47 a.m. every single night. And that's how I know it's real. Thoughts?
Bueno, you ask other people if they believe in this, how you say, spaghetti fly,
cool.
the flying
so
spaghetti.
If I find other people that agree with me and they say they hear it too, how do we prove which one of us is correct?
That's a good question.
Yeah. So, for example,
maybe some type of like how they say like data, like some type of percent, and if the one that's closest to the 100%.
No, that's a fallacy.
Well, I would love some kind of data, which was what I thought you were talking about. So
that will help. Yes, I think.
Juan, you've seen optical illusions before, right?
Explain that. I know illusion. When you say optical, the eyes, like visual.
Like an optical illusion where there's two squares that look like they're different colors, but they're actually the same color.
Okay, I think I know what you mean. It's close to what the magic, like magic.
Sure. I'm a magician. Here, look. You ready? I'm gonna pull part of my finger off and put it back. Now, if a whole bunch of people saw that and they all believed that I pulled my finger off, does that mean I pulled my finger off?
No, because that's fake. That's not real. That's fake thing.
How do you know it's fake?
Magic.
How do you know it's fake?
Because I have a uncle, mi tío Pablo, my uncle. He do this in the party.
You don't know that he did the same thing I did. There's lots of different ways. There's lots of different ways to do a magic trick. You don't know that I didn't actually do that and do it so that it looks the same as a trickery version. Okay. In that case, I'm just going to stop, because what we have here is you believe something. You can't demonstrate it to yourself or to anybody else. And what you did was you went around and asked a whole bunch of people if they feel the same way. Well, of course they did, because religious people share common experience, but that doesn't mean that the thing that they experience points to a real being. If you want to demonstrate that the being is real, you need to find a way to test this and then demonstrate it's true. And until you do, you are believing something irrationally. You are believing it without good reason.
Okay, well,
someone said pull my finger.
If I find out more, can I call back and we talk again?
If you have evidence to present that you think should convince somebody else, please call back.
Okay, but thank you so much. I like so much your video, because you listen and you think a lot. And Queen, I see in the chat they say you're beautiful. You say beautiful, and this is true. And have a good night. Thank you so much. Adios.
Okay, thanks.
Matt, thank you so much for providing intellectual content. Queen, you're hot. True. However, just notice that. That's all.
I noticed it, but I also noticed he doesn't think I'm hot, which kind of hurts my feels a little bit.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
No, I'm not complaining that people think I'm hot. I'm just saying it's an interesting thing to know.
Yes, it is. It's a very weird dynamic. The number of times that the other person on the show gets ignored, or where it's their
acknowledged for their
physical appearance.
Looks.
Yeah, you're so pretty and wicked fucking smart, and could have cleaned your clock in a heartbeat, but you didn't have anything more than I feel it's true, and I asked some other people, and they feel it's true too. Cool. You weren't worth Jess's time. I did the easy work, because she shouldn't spend any time on that.
Sorry, like, I'm not trying to be full of myself. I'm just very tired. That's all. At this point, if you say I'm hot, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to roll with it.
We have Greg from Canada, pronouns he, him, who has proof of science in the Bible and proof of prophecy. So welcome, Greg. We've been waiting on proof for ages.
I know. Hey, nice to chat. Hello?
Go for it.
Hello.
Nice to chat with you. I actually spoke with you and Dave Warnock about half a year ago, Matt. But I'll start with the proof of science. It's from Jeremiah 31:32. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
Yeah, please read it.
Okay, it says, "Only if the heavens above can be measured and the foundations of the earth below be searched out, will I reject all the descendants of Israel because of all they have done." Now, we know that even our scientists today cannot measure the heavens because they expand so rapidly. They can only what do you calculate,
Wait.
right?
What was the verse again?
Jeremiah 31:32. And by the way, there's 3 points of science in the Bible, but I'll give you this one.
Hang on.
But Jeremiah 31:32.
Stop. Can you not hear me when I say hang on?
Yeah, sorry. I think we're on a delay.
Oh my God, hang on. I'm going to speak now, and you're going to not speak now because I have a question for clarification. We will get to all the various things. What version of the Bible were you reading from for Jeremiah 31:32?
Because that's not what it is.
NIV Thompson Chain.
Jeremiah 31:32 says, "It will not be like the covenant I made with their ancestors when I took them by the hand to lead them out of Egypt, because they broke my covenant, though I was husband to them, declares the Lord."
Yeah. See, now I have to go get my NIV because I don't have the digital version of this. So now I'm opening up Jeremiah.
It is. I just pulled it up. You can see it right here. 31:32. That's what it says.
It says in the NIV, it says it will not
31:37.
31:37. So you didn't even know what verse you were referencing.
I apologize, guys. I'm sorry, but I'm working under
Very
there. I got better
study.
lighting now. Sorry, 31:37.
Better lighting.
I apologize. Yeah.
So 31:37.
I'm drinking beer, sitting here under a blue light. Hey.
Okay. Verse 31:37.
That science and God are real.
Thus saith the Lord: if heaven above can be measured, and the foundation of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, said the Lord. How is that science in the Bible?
Well, because we can't even measure the universe today. And
no. Stop talking. First of all, we can measure the universe in many, many, many different ways. But how does this verse represent science or a scientific bit of knowledge in the Bible? Because that is a statement that if heaven above can be measured, which it either can or can't, that doesn't tell you heaven can be measured or heaven can't be measured. So please explain to me how this verse tells us anything scientifically verifiable.
Well, in my opinion, I think 3,000 years ago, they had no way to know that the universe was constantly expanding, right?
That's not relevant. That there's nothing in this verse that shows that they knew anything. No, it's not. It's not relevant. There's nothing in this verse that shows that they knew anything about whether or not the universe could be measured. And there's nothing in this verse that makes a statement about whether or not the universe can be measured. So your very first verse says, if, and then a qualification. That is not a statement of fact. It is saying, if the heavens can't be measured, I will or will not do this. That is not a scientific statement at all. It's not a piece of knowledge that was scientifically confirmed later. And just because you don't think we can measure the universe now doesn't mean that we won't be able to measure it in the future. We can measure it. Matter of fact, we are living in the one time when we can measure it. If it continues to expand, then the edges of it will be at a point where people later will not even know that the rest of the universe exists somewhere down the line. We are ideally suited to do the measuring that is possible now. How does that verse tell us anything about science?
In my opinion, it says it's a challenge. And and if you look scientifically, they can guesstimate the size of the universe, the expansion of it, but they cannot measure it. There's a difference between calculating and measuring. And we have not fully explored the foundations of the earth below, right? Have we? This is 3,000 years ago. Am I wrong, or am I reading into too much into it?
You are absolutely wrong, and desperately seeking Susan, in the sense that you're trying to find science where there isn't science. And by the way, do you know the Jewish word that's used there for measured? Do you know the Jewish word that's used there, or the Hebrew word that's used there for measured?
No.
Do you know whether it means measure or calculate?
Well, in my translation, it says measured. So
do you know if the Jewish word there? Do you know if the Jewish word there means measure or calculate? Cool. So you don't know what the Jewish word is, and yet you made a declaration that it doesn't say whether or not it can be calculated. It says measured, which means you are another person who is ignorant of the origins of this, who is trying to use an English translation for you to figure out what you think it means. Now, this is not being said to be mean to you. It's a problem with Christianity. And that is, you were so sure that you had a verse that taught us something about science, claiming they knew something about science 3,000 years ago that we only just now discovered, when that is not at all what that verse is about. It's not at all what it says. How on earth could there possibly be, stop and listen. How on earth could there possibly be the God of the Bible in reality, and he fails to teach his followers how not to be ridiculous and confused about what a translation says versus what actual science is? If there were a God, instead of you having to dig through Jeremiah to find something that you think tells us about science, only to discover you're wrong because you haven't even bothered to look at it in the Hebrew to find out what the word is and to see what the usage is and to find out what the language was like at the time. But God didn't correct you. From now on, before you call the show that I'm on, I would like you to pray to God and ask him what you should say to convince us. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, not only will you not convince us, you will be committing embarrassing acts on behalf of your religion. And you don't want that. If there's a God, he doesn't want that. So God should be very quick to tell you, here is what you should say to Matt and Jessica.
Okay, I got one. Can I respond?
You got one what?
I have one. You corrected me before, and yet you were wrong. We were talking about self-fulfilled prophecy. I have a scripture here, Luke 22.
No, you should read Helping Jesus Fulfill Prophecy, and then get back to me after you read that. Yeah, I don't
22
care.
what?
Breathe heavily. Breathe heavily. It's called Helping Jesus Fulfill Prophecy.
Luke 22:36. Listen. Okay. So we were discussing if there was self-fulfilled prophecy. And I brought up the wrong scripture from Matthew. But here's one from Luke 22:36, where this is Jesus in red letter. But now if you have a purse, take it, and also a bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and buy one. It is written, and he was numbered with the transgressors. And I tell you, this must be fulfilled in me. Is that not self-fulfilling prophecy, Matt?
Do you understand how the Gospels were written?
Luke 22:36.
Do you have any fucking idea how the Gospels were written and when they were written?
Yes, I do.
Okay, yes, please explain.
But listen,
Nope.
One point. It's not.
I don't care about your point. Explain to me how the Gospels were written, and then we will continue. Because you don't fucking know.
Do you know?
Nope. You listen.
Listen.
Explain to me, or get the fuck out of here.
Can I answer?
No, you can tell me how the Gospels
you can
were written.
answer. You can answer. You can answer if you answer her question. That's it.
I am. Well, I don't know
how are the Gospels written,
but I'll tell you, they're not.
Oh. No. I just hung up on you.
Sick.
No. He flat out said, I don't know how they were written.
Yeah, love it.
So I hung up on you. Yeah. So here's the thing.
2 minutes. Jimmy, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So Luke 22:36 and 37. There was this issue that he thinks we had about whether or not there's self-fulfilling prophecy. If I say, I'm going to hang up on you, and then I hang up on you, that doesn't count as prophecy. Is it technically a self-fulfilling prediction? Sure. But that doesn't make it prophetic. So Luke 22:36, and I will do this in, let's do it in the ESV. Jesus says, supposedly, which we can't verify, but now let the one who has a money bag take it, likewise a knapsack, and let the one who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. For I tell you that this scripture must be fulfilled in me, and he was numbered with transgressors. For what is written about me has its fulfillment. That's not a prophecy. It's a claim of fulfilled prophecy. The prophecy that it points to is, it's like saying, if somebody said, someone will come along one day who people will despise, I can say that was a prophecy written about me because there are people who despise me. I have come along, and as predicted, people despise me. Therefore, prophecy has been fulfilled. That's not what it means to fulfill prophecy. My phone is beeping all kinds of stuff, but prophecy needs to be clear, and it needs to be answerable by a single set of circumstances, not prone to interpretation or speculation. It means nothing to say, in a day along the way, someone will make a decision and it will be one sixfold of love. And then when somebody picks the 6 of hearts, you say, aha, it said sixfold of love. Love is hearts, 6 of hearts. The Bible predicted that, this sixfold love, that you would pick 6 of hearts. That's not fulfilled prophecy. It's not fulfilled prophecy when people are actively working to fulfill it. Just like when I go to a restaurant and I order a medium rare steak, the waiter isn't fulfilling prophecy when he fucking brings me a medium rare steak. It needs to be answerable by a single set of circumstances without interpretation. I got one more call to get to, and just before we do, I want to thank a few people. We're going to get on to super chats after this last call here. But I want to thank Ben for his screening calls, and I got Cookies, Ilya, Jess, Stephanie, and the other invisible mods out there for helping out. It's greatly appreciated, and we don't want anybody thinking that their volunteer efforts, which help keep the show going and make it tolerable for me to be here and focus on 23 other things, we don't want them to think that it's not appreciated. So, yes.
Love
you guys are awesome. And for all of our mods,
thank you for all the support in the chat.
Don't ban anybody for mentioning some other organization.
No comment.
If you go over there and mention my name, you get banned, which is kind of funny. But it's Grant in Midland, Texas. You are pronouns are he, him, and you are the final caller of today. How are you, sir?
Hello, Grant.
Hey, Jessica. Hey, Matt.
Oh, hey, Jessica. Hello.
Well, the other guy said Jessica, so I thought I'd call you by name.
No, I appreciate it.
Well, I guess my question is, I guess over the years, Matt, of your discussions, do you find there to be a difference between atheists and theists in the sense that why is it that me, the most prophetic believer in my family, why is it that I'm the one that's changed by reasonable arguments, but my family members aren't? And through the arguments you've had on the phone, why is it that things that would convince me so easily, why isn't it convincing them? I'm just confused what you believe the difference is between atheists and theists. Is it something to do with their interests? Is it something to do with a personality type?
It's something to do with an a priori commitment.
Yeah, there's a lot to try to figure out about this. And it's one of those things where I used to be a believer, but I was one of the believers that when presented with when it was pointed out by me or to me that my arguments were fallacious, that my evidence shouldn't warrant belief, I'm willing to change my mind. there are other people who aren't. And I think for many of them, they prioritize personal experience. If you watch the debate that I did with Stuart the other day, he listed a bunch of, and air quotes here, facts, which weren't substantiated and weren't actually facts. But he also talked about putting Christianity into practice in his life and how it's had an impact in his life. Once you do that, if you live your life as a Christian, as a Muslim, as a Hindu, as a Scientologist, there will be an impact on your life. You are living your life by a different set of instructions and expectations, and that will impact how you see the world. Just like if, you know, the people that I choose to hang out with impact how I view the world. They impact not the facts, but the perception of those facts. And so when somebody says, oh, I put Christianity to work in my life and it worked. If you go in and you examine what they mean by it worked, it didn't. There's no evidence that it did anything other than, hey, I'm living this way and it has consequences. There's nothing about the truth of Christianity. And so when you pray and you feel better, the inference that Christians make is that you feel better because there's a God who made you feel better, because the religion is true and it made you feel better. And that evidence, air quotes, outweighs anything anybody could say. It's the reason why Ray Comfort says, oh, it would be easier to convince him his wife doesn't exist than that his God doesn't exist, which we know is hyperbolic bullshit. And yet it's because he feels it. And until you can get people to realize that that's what they're doing, I don't think they're going to give it up.
I'm quite interested in why you described yourself as the most prophetic member of your family.
Yes, I was going to be a priest.
What does that have to do with being prophetic?
I felt like I was, you know, I cared most about what Jesus's teachings were, and if maybe my parents did something wrong at home, I'd be like, hey, this quote in the Bible said that you should do this in this situation. I cared about.
So sorry, how are you defining prophetic? I think that might be important.
Oh, I guess just devout. I guess. Sorry.
Okay, devout is, I think, a more reasonable adjective, personally. So, I guess my initial thought is folks can be more devout about quite literally anything. Your level of devotion doesn't make the position correct.
Okay.
I mean, right? Would you agree that I could be completely devoted to the idea that the earth is flat, but that doesn't mean that I'm right?
I agree.
Okay. So I think being devout is one thing. Being right about your devout beliefs is another. One requires evidence, one does not. My light turned off. I mean, right? You can be devout about any belief that you want. I'm not saying your belief is right or wrong. I'm simply saying that being devout about it doesn't make it right or wrong.
Could it be possible that maybe the more devout person within a club, within a group, within the religion may have, more strength on their side if they're the ones that are being well, if the most devout member was, what does this say about the people that kind of care about?
But what does being devout have to do with and I'm not being snarky at all, what does being devout, like what does your degree of believing in a position have anything to do with the reality of that position? Because there are people who are devout flat earthers or devout anti-vaxxers or devout whatever the hell, right? What does that have to do? Like, what is the straight line between that level of devotion and the actual reality of the situation?
Yes, there's nothing, no line.
Okay. I mean, and that's fine. That's the question I'm asking. So when you say, like, what does it mean that the most devoted sort of member of the family is the most ready to accept, I believe what you said, correct me if I'm wrong, was like new information. I'm curious if you are really open to accepting new information, or if you are open to accepting new information that fits your ideological worldview, and you are framing that as being more open to all information. Just what I'm asking.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And I wonder if we're not framing this all entirely wrong, because you're like, why do some believers become atheists when some don't with the same evidence? And then you point yourself out as someone who is going to be a priest. You know, it seems strange to you that you're an atheist and you were the most devout out of your family, but it doesn't seem
he said he's
strange.
An atheist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Grant. I did not realize you were an atheist. My apologies.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So it doesn't surprise me that the person who put time into studying towards this is going to reach a different conclusion than the people who haven't. I don't think you guys have the same evidence. I don't think you have the same information. And there's something about studying it with a mindset to understand it that is very different. If you talk to most believers have never been challenged. Most believers can't tell you what it is that they believe. They can barely tell you what it is they believe without telling you why. The reasons behind it, the constant reinforcement, they're not ever encouraged, nor do they tend to think critically about these things. As a matter of fact, Eve, who may be guest hosting here in a few weeks.
Soon.
I haven't received confirmation yet from Jimmy, but I'm sure he'll say it in my ear.
Confirmed 15th.
Confirmed February 15th. Eve would be my co-host on the show. She posted something the other day where she was surprised that the apologists were the ones who were perhaps most dickish or least least expressive of the aspects of Christianity that perhaps apologists didn't express, that type of thing. And I said I didn't find it that surprising at all, because, you look at my grandma, was never really challenged on her beliefs. I was the most challenging thing for her beliefs. And she just sent me a letter saying, I know we don't share these beliefs, but I love you and I'm praying for you. That was it. And there are plenty of other people who have been challenged even less than that. So I wouldn't say you have the same evidence, but I also would say that you had a different motivation and method for evaluating that evidence. And it's not a guarantee that it's going to lead you to atheism. But we do know that people who go to university and people who go to seminaries that involve in biblical criticism, the number of them that turn out to be atheists is shocking. There's a reason there's a clergy project with thousands, I think now, of members. There were easily over 1,000. All those people who are current or former clergy who are no longer believers. There's an entire anonymous group of them. Because nothing is going to make you an atheist more than honestly studying religion.
Cognitive dissonance is the hell of a drug. And I can say that as someone who was an evangelical fundamentalist Christian for over 20 years. And I apologize because I completely misunderstood the first part of that call, and I thought you were a theist. That's why I responded in that way. But I think a lot of the points stand where, like, if you or whoever has, as did I, a worldview that is based on a belief system that sort of provides all of the answers, it is very, very, very hard. It's uncomfortable. It's painful. It's isolating to integrate new information that forces you to reassess quite literally everything. Your values, your morals, your reality, your future. It is often much, much easier to double down on the supposed answer that you already have, answer, than to try and integrate all of this new information and realize that, like, a lot of your life has been spent. For me, I would say wasted. I won't say that for everyone. Engaging and believing and supporting and whatever this specific worldview. It's hard. It is the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, it does feel that was one of the problems when you first become an atheist. You feel like you've wasted your time, and those first years of being an atheist, you're kind of angry. You feel like your time was wasted.
You're hella
angry at way, and oh man, it's just
I was livid.
The people that are sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, I was fucking livid. So, like, yes.
And it seems like the people you want to have the conversation with most, the people you care about the most, you want to tell them first. You're like, oh my gosh, I found this evidence. And it feels like I ruined the conversations with the people that mean most to me right at the start. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It's true when Jimmy talks about when you first become an atheist, shut the fuck up, Jimmy. Because you, sorry.
Just teasing,
but
Jimmy.
It just, I wish I waited because I was so angry at the start, and I actually care about my loved ones, and I want to free them too, but they feel like you're the one harassing them, and it's so frustrating, but now I've gotten better about that.
Yeah. My brother just mentioned that the Power of the Cattle Call at Billy Graham Crusades, we had a friend of the family that went down and got saved every time she went to Billy Graham. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to get saved. Oh, I'm going to get saved. I'm going to get... There are people who, I don't want to make it insulting. They're followers in the sense that they need someone to tell them, and they need to feel this. Now I'm a part of something, to the point where they will do it repeatedly. And they will protect, known liars because the value of what's coming out of it. Anyway, I don't know that we have a better answer for you, Grant, than that, and I've got to get moving on to some super chats, but I'd love to have you call in and talk some more. If you're really having difficulty working through anger long-term, I'd always going to recommend Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project. You are not alone.
Not alone. And again, sorry for misunderstanding the first part of that call.
No problem. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Grant.
Keep up the good work.
Yes, my brother, who is my favorite person on the planet, is in chat. I say that all the time. And
Brad?
It's just, yeah.
Is that you, Brad?
He's awesome. Awesome possum. And he reminded me of that person, friend of the family, who literally every single time is going down and get saved, go down and get saved, go down and get saved. And, for those of us that weren't quite like that, we were still similar. Our youth group was incredibly active, and it was like, oh, I'm going to rededicate my life to Jesus. I'm going to rededicate my life. I've fallen. I had thoughts, I wanted to get into Mary Sue's pants, and I shouldn't have done that.
I had some thoughts today, personally.
I feel guilty.
A couple of thoughts. Anyway, I don't feel bad about them, so that's fine.
I no longer feel bad about most thoughts.
No.
Except for when like there's some intrusive thoughts that come in that I don't really have that as a problem regularly, but every now and then it's like, why did you think that? And usually I try to get some kind of lesson out of it, but none of them are like, I don't have voices telling me to kill everybody or do anything immoral. It's just weird thoughts that pop into my head more often.
Like, why would I think that? But like, I don't feel bad about any of the like. Let's be real. Christianity was trying to make us all feel bad about our sexual thoughts, and quite literally, that was it. Everything else was secondary. To which I no longer feel bad for. I celebrate them. However.
Yep.
Super chats,
it's weird because I'm not saying I'm glad I grew up Mormon, but I do know I would think many less things were hot if I didn't grow up Mormon, and I'm sort of glad I think those things are hot.
Well, lucky for you.
All right, let's knock out some super chats. 1999 from Greg Murkowski, who's almost always first, and don't think I don't notice. Thanks for the great show with HQ. I joined the Patreon. I joined the Patreon of the line just to get Jimmy to mimic you. You can never have too many Matt Dillahunties.
Listen, I've seen it. Get ready. Buckle up.
We hit our goal, and tomorrow on the live celebration, Jimmy, you want to just do voiceover announcement right now?
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah,
Jim.
sure. So first of all, if you can't wait and you definitely want to see it tonight, as soon as the show is over, I'm posting the video of me in my bathroom shaving my head bald to Patreon. So if you haven't become a patron already and you'd like to support us on Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline. It starts at $5. Also, feel free to let us know what you think should be our February goal. We'll probably aim for 400 patrons by the end of February. What thing you would like to see happen you can make suggestions. Tomorrow, I think we'll take calls because we always take calls on the shows on the line, but I think whoever's available out of our line crew will probably end up playing. Ben was suggesting a Jackbox game called sorry, I had it up 2 seconds ago, but it sounds perfect for us. It's called Scooby-Doo where the fuck? Talking Points. And basically it sounds like you get random slide pictures and you have to make an impromptu speech about the slide pictures. That just sounds perfect for this group. So that's probably what we'll do tomorrow. Right? Yeah, it's like improv.
Yeah.
And then I think the audience, because it's Jackbox, I think the audience will get to vote on the winner, which is a little bit of a bummer because Matt will win just because he's Matt and whether he does good or not. It's, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine. We'll be fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Super fine.
Yes, I am currently bald and I'm currently down to just a goatee. I technically could pop on the screen, but I'm not gonna because I feel like I want it to be worth it for those patrons who got that early shaving video. And it's fun. You get to watch, and when I say soul here, it's a metaphor, but as you see my hair come off, you can see in my eyes my soul leaving my body. And it's
Wait, am I allowed to objectify the voice of God or no?
Just the voice.
Just the voice. Still cute.
I'll say that. It's not.
Fine. I said what I said. That's it.
I'll be excited
don't ever
for it
make
to
me
grow
say
back.
that again.
I really want the beard back more than I want the head hair. The head hair doesn't bother me. I think I have a fine enough bald head shape.
It's all fucking gone. Let's be real. Sorry, I'm answering the chat. It's gone. So go to the Patreon, pay your $5 immediately, or else I'll cancel you. No,
you'll see it
go
tonight.
Do that.
Yeah.
I'm saying still cute, and I'm not going to argue with Jimmy. So I've objectified the voice of God, and y'all can die mad about it. Next.
I should have tried harder with this voice. This is not my. I feel like I should have added some more baritone or something to it.
Whatever.
That's a little more godish. All right. On to the next. I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yes, I was on Neil 604's atheist deconversion story panel thing. Thank you.
You don't react to live chat for free, Jess. Is this your first time? You make them pay to get responses in live chat.
Oh.
It's how we pay our bills.
Sorry. Yeah. All right. $20. I will never respond to live chat again. $20 from Nilly Wilson. Matt plus Heathen Queen going to be a great show. Agreed.
That's
Thank
facts.
you for the super chat. Big facts.
And thank you for the fake money from Canada. That's
You
fake
said
Canadian money, but we love Nilly Wilson.
You said prophecies aren't real, and yet he sent that 2 hours ago. So,
I mean,
I know.
God, I hate to be a messiah.
I'm going to respond to something in chat because Black Swan said, "Is Matt going to dye his goatee pink?" That is totally an option, depending on how many patrons we get.
Oh well, that was for free.
Yeah,
we'll
but
up it
that
to
was
500.
that was to make money.
I know. I'm just being a nuisance.
I was going to say, I'll do it with Matt if we get 500 patrons in February. If we get to 500, I've learned my lesson.
My hair is already pink, so I've
learned my lesson about setting the goal too low. 250 was way too low. Y'all smashed it in the last days. We were like, we don't know if we're going to get this last 40, and then we got like 100.
I'll dye my eyebrows pink.
$10 from James Call. Maybe Matt and Aron can get a liquid snake. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think I already own a liquid snake.
What does it mean?
That was the guy that called in at the beginning of the show.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Liquid
A $10 from Eve McNeely. I think McNeely. The only thing I don't like about normalizing announcing pronouns is when a trans person feels like they need to give the wrong ones because they aren't out yet. That hurts worse than it being assumed. I would agree with that. Again, not trans, so I won't speak for that community, but I do feel like if we normalize it, make it normal, there won't be that pressure necessarily. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that not being out is going to carry that pain, whether we're specifically talking about pronouns or just using them incorrectly. But I don't know.
This sort of reminds
I'm
me.
I'm speaking from a place of privilege.
I have a friend who's explained this thing of where it's like there's an interesting side effect because it's not normalized, because it's not expected in all groups, cis, whether there's a trans person there or not. It actually can cause her to feel dysphoric when she's the only trans person in a group, and she knows that's the only reason people are now doing that exercise of introducing pronouns, almost sort of to draw attention to it. That's another reason why if we normalize it all the time, it would make a lot of people feel a lot better.
Yeah.
$10 from Asteroth. Conversations fail when people let their emotions take control of them and shut down. I'm glad you included the and shut down. If you're going to have a conversation about a taboo topic, you need to control your emotions. I agree that people should try to control their emotions, but I don't want to discourage people from getting or being emotional. The fact that there are fallacies in appealing to emotion has made many of us in the atheist community, oh, that's emotional. Oh, that's emotional. Oh, that's emotional. And when we start calling things emotional, that's also been used in an incredibly sexist way to dismiss people. The women are just so emotional. Fuck that. Dudes are as emotional. I get as aggravated, irritated as anybody you're going to find. I agree with you that the bigger problem is shutting down. But I think that there are many discussions where if people aren't passionate and they're not emotional, that does more harm. There are a few things that annoy me quicker than watching people dispassionately, academically talk about whether or not a particular ethnic group deserves the same respect and rights as somebody else. To have a dispassionate discussion about that sort of thing drives me crazy. And I know that's not what you're saying. I just want to make sure that we're drawing a distinction between a lack of passion and emotion, and then emotions that get us to the point where we've shut down and we can't engage.
Yeah, all I'll say about this is when is the last time that a woman's emotions have started a war? Okay, next. Ooh, $49.99 from Grant Cavazos. In your debate with Jordan Peterson, is there anything you wish you could have asked Jordan or an argument you wish you brought up? as much as you clapped his cheeks, my brother, in the debate, I can still see how his psychology tips can be useful. Thoughts?
Okay. I'm not going to sit here and say that a psychologist doesn't have some useful psychology tips. But what I will say is that anybody who thinks that Jordan Peterson's psychology tips are particularly useful in a substantive sense needs to go watch the Bible Reloaded's chapter by chapter walkthrough of his book on 12 Rules for Life, because there's absolutely nothing remotely impressive or substantive in there, and most of it is laughably bad. I think Hannah and Jake's take on that was one of the, not just the best takedown of Jordan Peterson, it's one of the best things I've ever watched, and it's a long series. And Hannah and Jake do, I'm assuming it's still up there. My apologies if I'm directing you to something that's been taken down. But they were awesome at going through that. Every time I hear somebody say, oh, I can still see how his tips are helpful, I want to know name one thing that he said that you value that hasn't been said by somebody else, or that is in any way tied to some insight or brilliancy that he had. I'm not saying there isn't any. I'm not saying the guy is a complete buffoon, although I might have said that before.
Wait, hold on, because I am saying he's a complete buffoon.
I think there are some subjects. I mean, the guy is a professor of psychology. It would be miraculous if he didn't say. He did teach, but it would be miraculous if he did. Okay, but it would be miraculous if he hadn't said something that was useful.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Men should learn how to make their own beds. I agree. That's very
useful. Clean your room, for God's sake.
I mean, I'm not even joking. And this is not me trying to negate anything that Matt has said in any way. It's just the shit that he is saying, which is exactly what Matt just said, is so fucking basic and fundamental that the fact that you need to worship this man as a god because he told men to be worth women wanting says a whole lot more about your positions and beliefs and ideas than it does about his genius, because that shit is basic. It's not genius.
Yeah.
It's like the shit that you learn coming out of the womb as a woman that men have not ever had to encounter or learn.
God is not a chess machine. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Is that you, Jesus?
I heard from someone that he's going to be debating William Lane Craig. And
oh my God.
I don't even understand how that can be a thing, but okay.
Yeah, y'all are going to waste 2 hours of your life watching that?
I'll do it. I'll waste that 2 hours.
Shit?
I'll waste way more than that on it.
I mean, I would do it if I was drunk, but that's about it.
I like when people like them set themselves up to lose their own audience, much like Elon keeps doing on Twitter. I love that shit.
God. I'm so tired. Okay, next super chat.
Clean your room, for God's sakes.
Right, wash your fucking sink in the bathroom, and then
wash
maybe
your
women
balls.
might want to use it. Yeah, open the cheeks and let the water run down,
Don't ignore the taint.
Oof.
I didn't know I could do this voice until now.
I don't think it sounds anything at all like Jordan Peterson.
Well, you're wrong.
I'm raging. I'm so sorry. Love you. I'm just raging.
$10 from Larry Fishman. I don't understand bigotry. It must take a lot of mental effort to remember who you're supposed to hate. Aside from trying to be a decent person, I'm too lazy to do all that mental paperwork. I don't think it requires that much mental effort at all. Once you decide that you hate a group of people who are not like you in some way, it's kind of automatic. I don't think that the people in the KKK have any problem remembering that they hate African Americans and Jews.
It's their entire identity.
Yeah. It's but I understand your frustration with it though, Larry. I get what you're saying. I just suspect, given that it's rooted in ignorance and these aren't necessarily the sharpest spoons in the drawer, that it's considerably less mentally taxing than you suspect.
All right, $9.99 from Shannon MC, Shannon Mick. Happy
Yay.
to see HQ. I'm happy to see you. Matt, Cookie saved me from looking dumb because I was going to complain about your lack of twitching, but I guess my notifications are just horrible. Are y'all iced in?
We're not completely iced in. I did stream for a couple hours today, but my willow tree is broken, and I'm going to have to wait for the ice to thaw. We haven't lost power yet. Things here are pretty good. I mean, you know, apart from the world falling apart and Trump saying stupid stuff, and, you know, me living in constant fear that my relationship's going to be illegal any day now because I live in Texas.
We've only got 4 more. Send in your super chats of $10 or more. Otherwise, we have to sell the show to Marlon.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I don't ever do this, and I'm never ever good at it. And Jimmy's good at it. And I get razzed because I don't sit here and go, give us your money, give us your money. Hey, look, there's only 4 super chats left. What the hell's wrong with you people? Give us money so that we don't lose the show.
Let me hop in here.
Call them naughty.
Y'all better fucking pay me. Be a good boy. And pay me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Exactly, yeah. If y'all don't fucking super chat in, I will never come on this channel again, and I will quite literally rake every single one of you that I have seen in the chat over hot coals and glass. For
super
fun.
chat now, woke moralists.
That was better.
Love you, though.
See, I know what it is. I decided to test it. I knew you were going to say that. People know that he sounds somewhat Kermit-y, but they think he only sounds like Kermit. He sounds like Kermit plus the prepubescent kid off The Simpsons. Here's your popcorn.
I think it's funny
Mr.
that you're
Simpson.
lecturing me on what the fuck he sounds like when I had dinner with the man and sat with him on stage.
I stand by my criticism. Here's another.
If y'all super chat over $20, I will tell you that you are a good boy or girl.
Or other.
Good pal.
Just popped in.
$10 from Asterat to both of you. What are the axiomatic principles used to determine the morality of a thing or an action?
These nuts.
I think the best ones that I've heard is part of the think globally, act locally. But the question that I constantly ask myself is, if everyone in the world took the action that I'm about to take, would the world be better or worse? And then I follow that up with how much better or worse, because that has to matter to me. Because I think if everybody yelled at each other and said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, the world would be worse if we did it all the time. But it doesn't mean, I think the world would be worse if we couldn't do it on occasion. So.
Yeah. Fair enough. 9 from Soul Archaic.
They're so terrified they wouldn't even ask you a question. $10 from Eddie Dean. I was raised AOG. I no longer believe, but I often think about a missions trip. That's Assembly of God, by the way. Missions trip I was on where someone that was blind was prayed for and healed, later verified by a doctor. Thoughts? I would be interested in seeing the verification that from a doctor that they were blind before and that they weren't blind after. And if all of that were true, no, if all that were true, and then I see what's happening. And they were verified blind before, and they were verified blind afterwards. Then we would say we have not a confirmed miracle because we don't know what the cause is. The next step would be to say, can we identify what the cause is? Because how do you know that it's the prayer that did it and not something else?
You can't, but yeah, do that.
I heard about this. I'm pretty sure that it was by Mr. Beast.
Makes sense. $9.99 from George Carlin. What? Would have hated Andrew Tate. Finally caught a show. Hopefully my name makes Matt smile. Anywho, did you play the Dead Space remake, Matt? I'm sorry, what about me personally? Just kidding. Go ahead, Matt.
I didn't play the Dead Space remake. I think George. I go back and forth on some things with George Carlin, but I appreciate the comment and thank you so much for the contribution.
Yes, thank you for the super chat. Sorry, I'm the worst at remembering to say that.
$50 from Jabari Dia. Hey, Matt, Heathen, Queen Jimmy, what's the best response to Christians plant the seed, but the Holy Spirit makes you love God? Or the power of the Holy Spirit over you violates your free will no more than someone who makes you fall in love with him. I have no problem. Let's assume for a second the Holy Spirit was real. I have no problem that it could be the case that a Christian could plant a seed that makes you accessible to the Holy Spirit. And I have no problem with the notion that the Holy Spirit isn't violating your free will any more than someone who makes you fall in love with him. I have no problem with either of those things.
How do you make someone fall in love with you? Sorry.
Yes, it's a colloquialism that, what I'm saying is it's just a colloquialism. That's why I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem about whether or not it's true.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't think you make anybody fall in love with you either, but I know that people will say that, like, oh, you did that and you made me fall in love with you. No, I did that, and it had
you
this
fell in love with me.
effect. Yes.
I don't know. Andrew Tate seems to think he can make people fall in love with him, and then he puts them into servitude, and that's why he's in jail.
Called human trafficking.
I was gonna say it's called a lover boy scheme.
Oof, God.
Go to prison.
Yeah, go to prison, stay there. I hope no one visits you. $20 from M. Morgan. Great seeing Heathen Queen on the show. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I love your content. Jimmy, stop being so pushy.
And yet the money has begun flowing, so I will continue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, never mind. Next.
I'm just glad the power stayed on for the whole show and because of the ice, not because of a bill paid. $10 from Alfred E. Newman.
Sorry, it didn't stay on. I've put UPSs on every outlet that is connected to our show. The power actually went out for a solid 30 seconds, but we stayed up because of my UPSs.
You're doing great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alfred E. Newman, $10. No questions. I just love y'all and the work you do. Praise Bob and keep it up with everything. Thank you, Alfred E. Newman.
Thank you.
I'm not worried.
$10 from James Call. Heathen Queen. Is that Pentax camera over your left shoulder? It sure as fuck is. This is a Yashica Matte camera that I purchased via what is the site where you bid on things? And I'm totally just blinking.
eBay?
Yes, thank you. I'm so sorry. This is like quite literally the only thing I've ever bought on eBay. No, it's the second thing. I also bought this camera back here, which is a Canon. It's not as old or as interesting, but it was very nostalgic of my photography class in high school. So I bought both of those things, and I have shot a lot of film on both of those things, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks for the super chat. And yes, it is.
Cool beans. Canadian $10, which almost counts, from Stephen Burdett. Heathen Queen should live react to Jordan Peterson debate. That would be the funniest thing in a long time.
I mean, we can set it up because the rage is real. I will need a co-host because I need someone to temper my just absolute vitriol. Like, I need someone to temper that, and I'm self-aware enough to know this. So yeah, but yeah, we could definitely do that. I'd be down.
I wouldn't suggest anybody from who's ever been on the line should ever do a live react, because you will get hours behind by the time we're only 20 minutes into the debate. There will be a lot of pauses.
Yeah, that's right, because I talk a lot, to be fair.
Is this me?
Yes, Matthew.
Thank you. Oh, don't do that. $10 from Anna Ailey. I don't know if Matt remembers this, but a girl said there was only one hospital in Alaska I live here and was like, wow, my small town is the only hospital. Thank you for all you do. I don't remember that. That's wild.
Now
But
you all know.
I wouldn't have believed somebody if they said there was only one hospital in Alaska. I don't even believe there's only one hospital in one town
That
in
seems
Alaska.
super fake because Alaska is quite massive. Anyway, $9.99 from Jessica M. Love you all. I'm trans and terrified of the Republicans if they win the presidency. That's super valid, and I'm so sorry that this is the state of our country right now, but like, know that there are many of us that will do everything we can to be on the front lines with you.
$20 from Summer. I just met you. Heathen Queen here is a super chat because you are sweetly manipulative. There you go.
So true.
We're going to owe Heathen Queen a present by the end of this.
Yeah.
Hey. $10 from Pandemonium. Just a gal screaming from the void. Great show and terrific to see HQ. Thanks, Yalda Links. Thank you. I'm screaming back to you from the void, where I have swallowed up bigots. All right.
$9.99 for Stephanie Helms. Uh-oh. Am I in trouble? I would ask allies who say they have my back to take notice of the wall it's up against and action against a firing squad taking aim. Yeah.
Yep.
Well put.
No arguments there.
We're back to only 4 left.
Uh-oh. Y'all better pay me.
Again?
$20 from John S. Wish I could send more. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, John. We appreciate you. We appreciate your super chat and your support. I'm speaking for the channel that I'm not technically a host of. But like folks like y'all that support the channel regularly are quite literally why it stays active and ongoing. So thank you. Am I wrong? No.
$10 from Sheridan Bernasconi. My Bible says, oh, wait, I don't know the Bible because I was brought up Catholic and now I'm a born again atheist. Great show, Matt, Jessica, and Jimmy. Awesome.
Hey. $20 from Rose Red R10. Felt bad when Matt started shaming for there not being enough super chats. Thank you for standing up for queer transgender rights as a genderqueer myself. We'll take any opportunity to stand up. We'll also take any opportunity to request money from people personally. Sorry.
$10 Canadian from Jamie Gairns. My first super chat ever, and I just want to say how much I enjoy Heathen Queen on the show. Awesome. And that Dillahunty guy ain't so bad either. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so sweet. That makes me feel lovely. Appreciate it.
That's the end?
I'm back. Okay, bye. Just kidding.
Almost.
That's the end?
Yeah, that's all.
I know.
That's all. Wow, that's impressive. So first of all, let me do this. Jimmy, once again, tomorrow night, instead of Transatlantic, we are doing a celebratory hangout for the line. Please, y'all tune in while we start in 6 Central.
Yes.
It's public,
and then,
right? It's not like
yes.
Patreon or anything, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Y'all
and then
come
Saturday,
see Jimmy with his no hair.
Yeah, I mean, it's something to see. Saturday,
That's
the
true.
Transatlantic Call-In Show is going to be on a different day. And who's hosting?
Who is it?
I think they're still figuring it out for sure, but it seems like it's Arden and Katy. But I'm waiting for Katy to verify. Also, there is now another super chat. I'll get it after you're done with your announcements.
And then on Sunday, Jimmy and I will be back to do the Sunday show because, and yes, in this year, there will also be other hosts of the Sunday show. It's just that Jimmy and I love doing it so much that we're going to be greedy and selfish at the beginning and just kind of like keep us, and then we'll pull people in because there are too many good people on the Line Network, and we have too many good friends who aren't regular Line contributors, but are here for something else that I want to get on the Sunday show, including, I'll just say this, John, if you see this, I want to get you on the Sunday show. But
which John?
I'm not going to say. He'll know.
Oh my God.
It's just the way it goes.
Wait, whose turn is this? I don't know.
I'll do it. 999
Okay.
for Solar Archaic. Great show, Matt and Heathen Queen. Jimmy, I resigned my Mormon Club membership back in 2015. I emailed my priesthood superpowers to the Planet Kolob.
Love it.
If you could email Kolob, that was just for you. Solar Cake. There's a song. A lot of people don't know. There's a song about Kolob in the Mormon hymn book.
God, that is a vibe.
It's fun. There's like 5 more now, so here we go.
No thoughts, just vibes. Oh, 5 more super chats? Let's do it.
What?
I'm down. I'll stay all night for money. That's.
I mean,
Okay,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah. I just need to like use the restroom in a little bit, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, I need to use the restroom like now, but I'll
from-
hold off.
DH Septaroth, I think. I reckon the mental paperwork, re maintaining bigoted opinions, comes into play when one needs to remember to not expose yourself to the relevant group. Yeah, I mean, seems right. It's a lot of work to be a piece of shit. I know that because previously in my life I was a piece of shit. So like it's a lot of work to remember all the people you hate and have to discriminate against. It's actually not that hard to just like extend people the same rights that you have anyway.
I can read this one if you want. Dead air.
Wait, what's
Go
that,
for
sir?
it.
$10 from William Moore. 2 copies of Deepak Chopra website, renamed for Peterson debate, and let them word salad back and forth for an hour.
Word salad.
Somebody
Yeah.
should design those 2 AIs, a Deepak quote AI and we used a Jordan Peterson AI years ago, but it was pretty basic.
Just dislike across the board. All right. $10 from Nitty. HQ is awesome. Nitty, you're awesome. And Matt's awesome too. Thank you.
I am in agreement with this super chat. And $10 from Eddie Dean. Always wondered how many people became alcoholics after Jeebus turned water to wine. I tell you, I grew up in a non-drinking Southern Baptist family where alcohol was discouraged and was a sin. And we have family members who also grew up Baptist who will drink wine. And it really, really, really irritated and probably still irritates my dad. But it's weird. And now I'm amazed I don't have a drinking problem. I probably had a little bit of a drinking problem for a very short period of time in the Navy, but there's a ton of alcohol downstairs, and I almost never drink anything unless there's company over, and I'll make a drink or something.
I have a drinking
but yeah.
solution.
Hey,
Yeah.
that makes one of us.
I don't have a drinking problem. I drink, I get drunk, I fall down, no problem.
Exactly.
I remember
don't
that
have a
t-shirt.
drinking problem.
Did I ever tell you the story of my
Uh,
friend who went into his bishop's interview and the bishop asked if he had a masturbation problem? And he said, nope, I come every time. That man is a legend in my world.
Iconic. High five to that guy. Jesus. $10 from Perch Dragon. Don't forget to get your tickets to the American Atheists Convention 2023 in Phoenix, Arizona. Need I say more?
And I can pretty much guarantee you that between now and the convention, which will be Easter, there will be either I'll get Nick Fish on, who's the president of American Atheists, or I will get another high-end representative of American Atheists, somebody who's actually involved with setting up the convention, to come in and talk about what you can expect, who's going to be there. We will definitely be promoting it. And full disclosure, I am on the board of directors for American Atheist. So while I don't get paid for that, I have to be supportive of the organization. So I have a vested interest in promoting it. Plus, I'll be there. I mean, I go to the conventions. But thanks for prompting me, Perch Dragon.
Yeah. $20 from Tutulio. Don't know what to say, but I guess I should say thanks. I watch you guys a lot. Thank you, sweet friend.
That was Brazilian Real. I had to look it up. I'd never seen just the letter R next to super chat.
All right. Yeah, that makes
Brazilian
sense.
Real. It's very cool.
Real.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. It do
Anyway,
be like
now
that.
we're done.
That's the way it goes. Thanks, everybody, and thanks a truckload. I want a special thank you to Jessica for agreeing and allowing me to postpone and then coming back on to do this. Please go give her content a view. But more important than any of that, more important than any of the discussions, more important than the super chats, anything else, trans people are under attack. Not just in Florida and Texas.
Yep.
But in our nation
Everywhere.
as a whole. And it's not just religious folks that are doing this. There's a considerable portion of the atheist community that has fallen in with some bad information and bigotry. We need to all get better at defending those points when they come up, of standing
Loudly.
not in front of and trying to defend people as if they couldn't, but standing alongside with them and making sure that we don't get scared off by, oh, you're going to get called names a few times when you're standing next to someone who is called bad names and the wrong names and the wrong pronouns on a daily basis. This is a functional part of their dysfunctional lives, and it's because of what these individuals are doing. Not only do we have to do everything in our power to make sure that Trump doesn't get elected again, but anybody who's going to advocate for these sorts of policies, we have to be vocal, we have to be out, we have to vote, and we have to be in unison with the people who are being marginalized to death. I'll see you next week.
Literally.
Bye-bye.